Hello, everybody. Welcome back to, well, kind of, I guess, a new series here. This is going to be a reaction series. I've kind of been planning this for a while, but I wasn't sure whether to do it or not. But I figured it'd be a good idea, and kind of get some exposure to some good videos and whatnot. So it's kind of pretty much I'm going to be reacting and pretty much commentating on different videos around the internet, primarily on YouTube, but pretty much reacting and commentating on different videos. I'm not switching over to this full time, of course, but this is just another way that I would like to bring some more, culture and inclusivity to the channel, more or less of, including more things and kind of a diverse, different kind of series. Of course, gaming is pretty much always going to be the main thing on the channel, but just outside of other things, just trying to experiment with some different things and do some different things on the channel and kind of explore outside of the gaming. But it'll always be the core thing for the channel. Will always be gaming. But just kind of exploring other things. So, of course, we have Mr. Nightmare here. This is a classic. I like Mr. Nightmare. He's a fine individual who does these scary stories. I mean, obviously, you see here he has almost 7 million subscribers. So, he's pretty well known. I'm sure maybe some of you guys know him. He's a fine individual, does a lot of scary stories and reads off of them. So, of course, this isn't the only kind of genre I'm going to be doing for this reaction or commentary series. Whatever it is, I'm trying to decide on what to call it. This is just an interesting 5 times garbage men found horrifying things in the trash. Excuse me. I thought this was a pretty interesting video to kind of react on. I like Mr. Nightmare. I haven't watched this video particularly yet. I know it was a little while ago. This is almost 10 years ago. He has a lot of videos. But this specific one I haven't watched yet, so it's going to be interesting to see here. So all credit, of course, goes to Mr. Nightmare. This is 100% his video. I'm not trying to plagiarize anything. But of course, just going to be commentating on it. And yeah, so it should be pretty interesting. But I'm not only going to be doing the scary story genre and everything. I'll be doing all kinds of different genres. But for now, I figured I'd start with something maybe a little bit scary. Because Halloween just recently passed. So maybe it's still a little bit relevant. So yeah, I'm just going to get right into it.
Everything we don't want usually gets thrown into the garbage for the local sanitation workers, or as we like to call them, garbage men to pick up.
Right.
Usually, whatever you have stuffed in trash cans or bags gets dumped into a truck without a second glance, which is why some people feel the garbage truck could be the best place to get rid of some of the skeletons in their closets. Maybe even literally. Garbage men all around the world, as expected, find horrific, disturbing things being dumped into their trucks every day. These are 5 short examples of this with downright creepy backstories. This experience was shared to me by a New York State sanitation worker named Ricky. Ricky had a set group of coworkers on his truck: the driver, Norm, and the other trash collector who would ride on the back of the truck along with Ricky, named Al. Al was always a rough and tough kind of guy. He had the long grayish beard, bald head, stocky build, tattoo-covered arms, and the deep trucker's voice. He was the kind of guy who you wouldn't want to get on their bad side.
Right.
Long story short, Ricky and Norm were as close with Al as his aggressive and demeaning personality could allow. A show-up, do-the-work kind of relationship. One particular day, Ricky noticed Al was acting really strange, quieter, noticeably unhappy. When he attempted to approach Al and get him to open up to be friendly, Al responded with a lot of hostility, saying things like, "Mind your own business, I'm not unhappy, focus on the job." Clearly something was going on in his personal life, and he wasn't the type to be open about things, so Ricky just left it alone. Now on the route they were assigned to, the truck passed both Norm and Al's house at some point. On this particular day, when they stopped at Al's house, he told Rick firmly to run down to the next house over and grab the plastic table that was sitting by the curb. Ricky said, "No, I'll just wait until we get over there." In response, Al yelled at him to just do it. Confused and a bit afraid, Ricky conformed and started walking over to the next house. As Ricky picked up the table and started heading back to the truck, after responding to Norm's confused hand motions behind the wheel, Ricky noticed Al hurriedly throwing a bag into the back of the truck. When Ricky threw the table into the truck, he saw the long black bag sitting over the rest of the waste, and imagined the worst. But knowing Al's aggressive and defensive nature, he kept quiet. By the end of the shift, when Al had left, Ricky stopped Norm and told him what happened. The two reported what happened to one of their superiors, and the waste that was dumped from the truck was thoroughly searched. Eventually, they found the black bag that Al had dumped into the truck, and the now squishy red contents that had been oozing from the bag.
You know, that's actually interesting. So see, this is kind of how I'm going to set up, at least for this specific video, this is kind of how I'm going to set up. I'll kind of react and kind of let the story play out, and I'll kind of react and commentate more or less afterwards, unless, kind of depending on the story. But that story was interesting. I mean, guess the one guy just probably killed somebody, unfortunately, and he just felt like, kind of like Mr. Nightmare was saying, how if you throw it in the garbage, it's not really kind of out of sight, out of mind kind of type deal. So I guess he could, he assumed that, maybe assumed his coworkers wouldn't be as nosy as that, but I suppose he was, I guess he saw the bag and whatnot. I guess he was just acting too weird. He kind of exposed himself, and unfortunately, that's just what it was. But that was quite an interesting story to kind of kick off here. So we're going to continue into it here, but that was interesting.
Robert Calvin was temporarily a garbage man for a city department in Los Angeles
spooky.
One summer because a guy quit. Originally, his job was only to consist of mowing grass and whatnot around town. However, he and his temporary team received a call from the mayor one day requesting that they go pick up the remaining stuff in an evicted tenant's apartment. The collectors arrived and found that there were clothes everywhere, a bed, some other furniture, and a couch. The place was absolutely disgusting. Along with the clothes, garbage was scattered everywhere, the rugs were stained, there were even holes in the wooden living room floor. When going to help a few guys lift the bed and couch, Robert had noticed empty vials laying around the floor. He told his co-workers to be cautious as he knew there was a possibility of needles having been stuffed in the furniture. After taking a closer look, Robert and his co-workers realized that this guy had shoved dirty needles down his couch and bed in hopes of someone picking it up and getting stabbed. Tucked further beneath the couch cushion was a small crumpled up note, saying, "You're not getting off this easy." What was found in the trash can in the backyard was even more disturbing. Filled to the brim was a trash can full of worn-out children's dolls, and in most of the dolls' tiny plastic arms were tiny holes assumed to have come from the needles. It was safe for the workers to assume that the man who had been evicted from the house had his fair share of illegal drugs.
That's interesting. It's just,
A sanitation worker named Sarah shared one of her experiences as a garbage collector with the internet. Sarah explained that while it's not seen on cop shows, police enlist the help of garbage collectors to look for crime scene evidence and collected waste.
Right.
Near Sarah's trash route is a known meth haven, and from time to time the cops would ask Sarah and her co-workers if they had found certain types of items in the trash, like certain kinds of containers or chemicals. Interestingly, she and her co-workers would also be asked to look for burglary-type objects such as weapons if there were to be a local robbery. On a more notable occasion, Sarah was asked to keep an eye out for cash registers in the trash because robbers could tend to steal entire registers, bring them home, and then toss them in the garbage when they empty them, assuming like everyone else that whatever ends up in the garbage is out of sight and out of mind of anyone.
Right, to that point, I think to that point is good. If it makes sense that the police would enlist, I guess, garbage workers to look around for like maybe crime scene evidence and whatnot, or potential evidence, I suppose. Because like it was said to the point, it was if you throw away something in your garbage, you don't think maybe sanitation workers or garbage workers are that nosy. You don't think they'll give it a second look. Especially if it's in a bag or whatever. But that's interesting. That is interesting. If the cops That's interesting that the cops kind of enlist some sanitation workers to look for potential clues if there was a crime committed. But it makes sense, though. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Just don't think the kind of out of sight, out of mind, as you were saying. That's quite interesting there.
One more disturbing experience, however, was when Sarah and coworkers found a leg stuffed in a garbage bag in somebody's trash can. On that same day after the shift when police were notified, it was discovered that Sarah and her coworkers had picked up more than one body parts. In fact, the body parts had been dumped strategically around town in random houses' trash cans, and they needed to search all of the trash to find the whole body.
That's interesting. Again, just I guess people just commit crimes, just put them in the trash. I'm sure
A
that's not
Reddit
always
user
the case,
named
but
Georgie P, who
it's
happens to be a garbage man,
I'm sure it
he has a
happens
number
more
of posts
times than
relating to
some people
sanitation
notice,
work, shared his story in a Reddit post asking garbage men what was the most disturbing things they found in people's garbage. Georgie works in North Carolina, and he explained that despite what people may think, garbage men are nosy and do like to peek a bit through people's garbage bins before dumping them into the trucks.
They do get nosy sometimes.
Well, one
sure,
particular day when he did
may
that
not
at a
think
corner
it,
house in
but,
Winterville, North
they
Carolina,
do. I'm
he
sure,
found a
he looks at your
white,
trash.
half-sealed plastic bag, and
it's
through the
interesting.
opening
It's
up
interesting.
top was a sketchy-looking picture of a young girl. Georgie took the bag out, opened it, and found that there was at least a pound's worth of images of the same young girl, appeared to be about 13 years old. He called his coworker over to check it out with him. Some images were school portraits, but most of the others were a lot creepier. Most of them seemed to have been taken without the girl's knowledge. Some appeared to have been taken through an upstairs window aimed to a house across the street, specifically zoomed into a room with the light on, and with the same young girl getting dressed in her bedroom. It seemed as they went through the pile, the images only got more and more disturbing. Georgie told his coworker to call the police as he continued flipping through the images. The creepiness levels peaked as high as they could go, however, when Georgie held up an image that was taken in a dark room. It became clear what it was very quickly. It was a picture of the little girl sleeping in her bed, taken by somebody standing right above her bed. The owner of the house was home, and he was arrested that same day and possibly charged with stalking of a child, child pornography since some of the images captured the young girl while she was nude, and breaking and entering.
That's horrible. That's unfortunate. That's a horrible situation that happened there. That poor girl was, a victim of some unfortunate circumstances. Luckily that individual was caught, and luckily he was, caught by the proper authorities, and hopefully he's serving a long time. That's horrible. That they did that. That's creepy. That's horrible. And thankfully the garbage worker was there to kind of find that and go through that, because it was saying, they are nosy and they do like to look through, things in the garbage that maybe some other people might not think that you're going to find out or even take a second look at. But luckily that garbage worker was there. Luckily he was nosy and he found that out, and luckily that person was caught in the end, and hopefully justice was served. So that's an unfortunate. It's a heavy situation. That's creepy. It's pretty creepy. It goes without saying. That's creepy. The jump scare got me there. Yeah, the last story here, number 5. Get right into it.
This last mention on this list is told in first-person point of view by a current sanitation worker named Hugo. I work as a garbage man in Manchester. I've been doing this for 11 years, so I've seen all of the weird shit that gets thrown out. Or at least I thought I did, before this. It was a day like any other. The shift was going as quick as could be expected, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. The truck emitted its ear-piercing shriek as it came to a stop. The sound I'm beyond used to, which signaled when I needed to hop off the truck and chuck the unwanted waste inside yet another plastic container into the giant pungent truck that has become a part of my life. However, at this one particular house, in this one particular container, was a Lenovo laptop. I picked it up, and it seemed to be in pristine condition, besides the grease and the little pieces of food that it had collected from sitting in a garbage can, but rubbing it off with my heavy work shirt, it was about as good as new. I naturally took a look at the house to see if the owner saw me take their laptop, and to my surprise, there was somebody standing by the window behind the partially open curtains. He was kind of peeking at me as if he didn't want me to see him. It was actually quite disturbing. Now I felt weird taking the laptop, so while still holding it, I took the garbage can and dumped it into the truck while pretending to do the same with the laptop. Instead, however, I placed the laptop on the back platform of the truck, returned the plastic pail to the curb, knocked on the side of the truck, and we moved along to the next house. That was where I handed my driver the laptop to hold onto. As I picked up the can at the next house, I noticed the guy from the previous house coming out to check his empty pail, and then turning to me and walking over to me. I returned the favor and met him halfway, and he just cut straight to the chase and asked me if I took his laptop. I felt my heart drop a bit for some reason, and stuttered at first, telling him I threw it in the back of the truck. What he asked me next shocked me. He asked if he could check the back of the truck to look for the laptop. Now,
See, that's he's acting shady as ever. The guy coming out of that house, shady as ever. He certainly has something on that laptop. Um, Obviously, I mean, he's acting suspicious as ever. He definitely has something not to be desired on that laptop. I can only imagine what, but I mean, it's definitely his, his laptop. I mean, he's acting super suspicious. So he's acting like making sure that the garbage guy actually threw it away and accusing him of stealing his laptop. But I guess it is something to wonder for the garbage man. Why would you throw out a perfectly good laptop unless you got something to hide? You know what I mean? And he's already acting suspicious on top of all of that. So, kind of interrogating him like that. We'll see what happens here.
I felt really awkward, but recovered by telling him firmly I have no time to play games, we're on a tight schedule. I simply walked back to the truck, dumped the contents of the pail into the truck, and we moved on. Luckily that block ended with that house, and we were able to sail away from that creep.
Right.
The wind in my face had never felt so good.
Right, exactly.
His reaction to my possibly taking his laptop only made me grow even more curious as to what was on it, which is why I lied and told him I threw it out in the first place. When my shift ended, I took the laptop to my car and drove home. On the way, I couldn't stop staring at that laptop. I just had to know what was on it. I pulled to the side of a deserted road and turned on the laptop, which surprisingly had battery left. The computer loaded up fast, like less than 30 seconds, and there was no password to the account, which was just titled Roy. I was wondering why he would throw this away. My question was answered very quickly. Scattered across the messy desktop were folders on top of folders, all titled very ambiguously. For example, one titled Fun Powder, another titled V288, and another titled Fruit Patch Boys. Inside all of the folders I clicked on were hundreds of videos and pictures of underage porn. I could only open about 4 before I started to feel sick to my stomach. I ended up dialing 911 and reporting this guy for child pornography possession. Now, the guy had pictures of himself on the computer, so I was not digging my own grave here by calling 911. However, as I should have guessed, the guy skipped town. I found a lot of messed up shit during my career, but never anything as bad as this. Maybe this guy would have gotten away with it had he just been smart and tucked the laptop underneath another bag.
That's interesting. That's interesting. It's also very disgusting. That's horrible that he did that, but that's just interesting. The fact that he kind of it just goes to show that criminals out there aren't always the smartest. I mean, he acted so suspicious, which really led that garbage man to really wonder what was on that laptop. Obviously some very disgusting things. That's horrible that he had that going on. But I guess, I mean, it said he skipped town. Hopefully he ended up getting caught for that because that's horrible to do, along with the other story that was there. Hopefully that individual ended up getting caught, and hopefully they were authorities they were able to catch up to him. But that's justice was served in that situation, I would hope. But that's horrible. And luckily, again, the right person got their hands on it. The garbage man did his kind of due diligence and investigated and was able to, report him to the cops and whatnot. So that's luckily the, garbage man did the right thing and ended up, like I said, investigating it and whatnot. There's, obviously some horrible stuff on there. So luckily, he did what he, could do. And, yeah, it's an interesting concept, like, as we were saying the whole video, you think you throw something away in the garbage and maybe it's not really looked at as much as maybe some other things. But, I mean, stuff does find it, if people are nosy, people will look, your garbage man will look in your trash. So, um, if there is anything that you got going on illegal, I mean, there is liable to be caught. Especially because, like it was interesting, like I was saying, the police enlisted help, for the sanitation workers and whatnot. So I mean, it is known out there. You're not, it's not 100% out of sight, out of mind once you throw it in the garbage. Sure happens more times than not, but it's an interesting concept. And Mr. Nightmare, cool guy. Great. He has some great stories. I highly recommend you. All the credit goes to him for this the video. Commenting on. All the credit goes to Mr. Nightmare. I encourage you to go over to his channel. Check out. He has a slew of other stories. He's been doing this for years. I've been watching him for years. Huge fan of him. He has a bunch of other different themes, scary stories and whatnot. So I highly recommend you check out that channel. He has a great channel going on there. A lot of classic scary stories on there. And yep, he's still uploading to this day. So he has a lot of new stuff on there too. So I'd highly recommend you guys check it out if you're into scarier things. And more scary stories. He's a really good scary storyteller, so highly recommend it. Now, this series is something like I kind of said in the beginning to kind of elaborate on. This series is a little bit newer. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. I think it could be interesting. I'll definitely be getting to more Mr. Nightmare and maybe some more scary stories in the future. But I'm going to be kind of mixing it up. That's just something else I can mix up with the channel. Kind of like my thoughts and the tier list series and whatnot. Just kind of something I mix it up on, trying to get it right with my computer. Editing might be a little bit strange this episode because I'm trying to more or less learn kind of different things how to record on my computer and whatnot. So kind of bear with me. The editing might not be kind of the best, but I'm doing what I can here, and I'm gonna only hopefully I could grow and learn more on how to do editing and whatnot on the computer and record the video and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the series. Comment down below what you think of the very first episode, and comment down below if you think I should react to anything else. It's more or less like I was saying, kind of reaction, also commentary. We're just gonna be commentating on different videos around the internet and whatnot. So it could be an interesting interesting concept, interesting series. So hopefully, you guys enjoy it again. Feedback is always welcome. Whatever you think of the new series. Of course, make sure to subscribe for more content, like video, all good stuff. Discord, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, links in the description as always. And yeah, hopefully go far with this. Kind of starting off another new series here. So this is something again, like I was saying, I was planning for a while, and this is what I was hoping to come out by now. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. And I got a lot more new stuff coming, but this is just only one of the things I had hatching. I have a lot of new ideas, but this is one of the things I had hatching, and I wanted it to come out. So yeah, we got more stuff coming, but yeah, for now though, I will see you guys in the next video.